Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. You're listening to Right Side Up. My name is Mike Taglavia. I'll be flying alone today. One of my co-hosts, I need to congratulate him and his wife, Dylan Maguire, who joins us here on the show occasionally. He and his wife welcomed baby Benjamin a couple of weeks ago. So I wanted to just let our listeners know that's one of the reasons why Dylan has not been able to join us regularly. He's been preparing for the arrival of their new baby boy, and they're going to be settling in for a while. So I just wanted to send out our congratulations. I want to jump right into things, and I hope it doesn't seem like I'm bouncing around too much. But the crime situation in Burlington seems to be pretty much boiling over, and I wanted to... Probably I'm going to take all three segments to deal with public safety. That was one of the things that was a hot topic for the election in general last November. It's one of the reasons why there were so many seats won by Republicans in the legislature, that and taxation and school issues. But the public safety is an issue all over the state, not just in Burlington. But Burlington, I think, and some of the larger cities, I think, have had an effect where a lot of the crime has bled out from the bigger cities into rural Vermont. And we've been seeing the effects of it. In Burlington, over the past number of years, probably somewhere between 5 and 8 years, we've seen with the attack on qualified immunity for police officers, we've seen with the push for defund the police, we can definitely see the adverse effects of these policies. And some of the progressive Democrats, I call them progressive Democrats, they call the progressives like to differentiate themselves, but I think they've just spawned a more radical wing of the Democrat Party. But I just wanted to talk about a couple of things. The first, I wanted to reference an article on Vermont Daily Chronicle. Crime-ridden Burlington's mayor blames Scott for not being strong partner, and this is dated August 21. Let's see. I'm gonna skip around in this article. This is by Guy Page. A week and a day after 3 children ages 14 to 16 beat a man to death on Church Street in broad daylight, August 11th, Burlington Mayor Emma Mulvaney Stanek told a concerned audience of downtown business people that Governor Phil Scott has not been a strong partner, end quote, in solving Burlington's crime problem. And I want to stop there for a couple of reasons. Number one, these so-called children, 3 of them, in my personal opinion, need to be tried as adults. Someone's life was ended by their brutality. A man's life was ended. He will not be going home to any of his family members or his friends ever again. And it's very important for people to remember that and keep that in the forefront. The age of these feral humans really doesn't matter when they've committed homicide, when they've ended a person's life brutally by beating him. Okay. The other thing that I want to bring up is the Mayor Emma. She's the CEO of the city, not Governor Scott. She's the one in charge. She's the one who's supposed to be taking responsibility. If everything was going wonderful, she'd be wanting to take credit. She wouldn't be giving any credit to the governor. So now is when she needs to shoulder the responsibility of the failings, of the arrogance, of the hubris, not only of her administration, but of previous ones. And the city councils, both the previous administration and hers, also sharing the blame. Now, previously there was Mira Weinberger, who was the one who basically helped to accelerate the slide into the abyss. But now we have the current mayor, and she wants to blame somebody else because something has made headlines for the negative again. So I just wanted to point that out. You know, when people, in government, elected officials, too many of them, I say this a lot of times when I'm talking with people, too many are unwilling to state out loud in the public in front of a microphone that they have made mistakes. We're all flesh and blood, ladies and gentlemen. We are all flesh and blood. We do make mistakes. But for the arrogance of the mayor of Burlington to blame the governor for the problems in Burlington is just completely out of line. Completely out of line. And the other thing, I'm surprised that this Vermont Daily Chronicle article refers to Church Street. I thought that Burlington fixed the problem on Church Street by changing the name to something else. But that's for another day, I guess. I want to skip down. There was a back and forth at the press conference between Governor Scott and I believe, WCAX reporter. But I wanted to get to comments made by the Department of Public Safety Commissioner, because I think they were really great. After further discussion of Governor's presumed role in the Burlington crime problem, Department of Public Safety DPS Commissioner and former Burlington Police Chief Jennifer Morrison stepped up to the mic to have her say, directing her comments to WCAX's Ben David. She said, Morrison, this is her quote. "So I don't know how long you've been tracking the situation in Burlington, but none of this has happened overnight. This is years and years and years of policy decisions, budgetary decisions, the city council decisions that have led to the situation in Burlington, and some of what I've talked about already." One of the other things is the demoralization of the police officers, law enforcement in the city of Burlington. Apparently they are in a headquarters that really needs to be vacated, and they need a new one because of mold and all kinds of other issues. Back to the article here. And to come around on point and somehow point a finger at the governor belies the reality for the people who live through that as city employees. My colleagues at AHS, Agency of Human Services, and at DPS and others across the state government do engage with the city of Burlington quite regularly. We recently paid for, out of a federal grant, to bring a project to the city of Burlington called the Situation Table that brings together stakeholders to solve complex cases of people who are at acutely elevated risk of harm or overdosing or recidivism. We are bringing tools to that community. We do talk to them on the regular. The problems in Burlington did not occur overnight. They will not be fixed overnight, and it requires that everybody commit to principles of accountability. This is why I brought this up, ladies and gentlemen. There's no accountability right now, and that's the problem. And I think one of the ways, the only way there's going to be accountability in Burlington is complete change of leadership. You know, it's unfortunate. I don't think things are going to change until there is an election and all of these people who brought these policies down on the poor people who actually live in Burlington, who call Burlington home, and we're in the middle of summer. There's plenty of tourists. Why do tourists need to be subjected to this lack of leadership? So come election time, these people all need to be sent home. They need to be sent packing. Back to the article here. That everybody commit to principles of accountability, shifting the pendulum back to the middle so that the use of public spaces is just as important for law-abiding people. Imagine that. And businesses to thrive as it is for service-resistant people. I think what she's talking about is people who decide that they want to take it upon themselves to break the law, who make others afraid or commit crimes. We also need commitments to prosecute and detain people who continue to harm the community. Now, this goes back to some of what the governor said in his address in the beginning of the last session. There needs to be accountability. Public safety was one of the hallmarks of what the governor said in his address to us when we were in session, when we first opened session. Taxes, public safety, there's a lot of things that the governor wanted to get, that we as Republicans wanted to get, that we did not get last session, that need to be brought to the forefront again. Public safety must be one of them. The mental health crisis in this state is still a problem. Okay, it is still definitely a problem. Taxes, the school funding situation, and the whole school reform issue is still yet to be completely resolved. And this is one of the things that the majority party has still been tapping the brakes on. They've been tapping the brakes because if you go to one of their forums, you will hear them say that they're just kind of waiting it out. They're waiting to gain back more seats. Well, I don't understand how policies like we have in Burlington that have made Burlington such an unsafe city are going to win them seats. But if that's what they believe, I guess maybe they should keep going. Let's see. This is a more quote from the Secretary Morrison. Let me get back to here. Let me find my place. We only need, it frustrates me as somebody who spent 23 years policing that city and as the interim chief in 2020 to hear people somehow point the finger at a governor when I lived through the decisions that got us to where we are now. And it was not the fault of the police chief or the police chief after me. And it certainly was not the fault of this governor. I need to remind our listeners, just in case there are people who don't know, this current mayor, Mayor Emma in Burlington, put a gag order on the previous police chief. I don't remember the current police chief's name, but I believe John Murad was the police chief that Mayor Emma put a gag order on. She wanted to basically look through the public safety announcements of the police chief before they were put out. Now, why would you want to do that? Why would you not want your police chief to let people know the actual true situation out there in Burlington? If you're concerned about the safety of your citizens, let your law enforcement officers do their job. Do not micromanage them. Let them do their job. And by the way, we've talked about, again, I talked about numerous times. Does everybody know what the broken windows policy is? That's what Burlington needs. You know who America's mayor is? I'm not going to tell you. I'll let you do your homework. He used the broken windows policy, and it worked. Cleaned up a big city, a very big city. Dwarfs the population of Burlington. But we need people with a titanium backbone that are going to actually implement the laws that are on the books. We're not talking about changing laws here. We're talking about just applying the law instead of saying, well, I'm the mayor and we're not going to do this, even though it is a statute. So this is what we need to be getting at. This is what we need to be getting at. So getting a little bit back to the article here. The city has made their bed, and they are going to have to ask for specifics to help turn the corner. We are here to partner with the city of Burlington, just as we are here for Brattleboro, Bennington, Springfield, Rutland, St. Johnsbury, Barry, and Montpelier, and now in Woodstock and Hartford. We're willing to engage in crime reduction strategies, but we can't be the ones directing the work. We don't come in and do something to a community. We work in partnership with communities who need state-level resources because they've exhausted the local resources. So that's how this works. So I really applaud Secretary Morrison for standing up and putting out the truth, the actual, what has actually happened on the ground in mostly the city of Burlington, because this is a problem statewide. This has been something that everybody, look on social media. Vermont is a very small state. Lots of people travel to Burlington. Once upon a time they did anyway. But everybody in the state knows that Burlington is not as safe as it once was. It's not as clean as it once was. And everybody knows that it's the leadership, top down, that is the problem. So, like we talk about and on the show a lot, ladies and gentlemen, the way to fix this, inform yourself. And what I mean by that is make sure you know who your representatives are, what they stand for, and who's running against them if you don't like the ones that are already there. We've got a break for pay some bills. We'll be right back. You're listening to Right Side Up. Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. You're listening to Right Side Up. My name is Mike Taglavia. If you get the sense that I'm a little bit ticked off at the situation with the violence, not only just in the city of Burlington, but all over the state of Vermont. I am ticked off. This is from lack of leadership. That's what it's from. We have statutes on the books that are not being applied, and we also have statutes that need corrections. Don't get me wrong. None of it's perfect. But we have had this slide into the abyss that has been orchestrated by a majority that believes that policies that sound good but don't work need to be continued, or we need just more policies that sound good to fix the ones that don't work that sounded good in the past. And I know that sounds kind of circular, but that's basically what we're in. That's basically what we're in. So I wanted to take a minute and look at something that's happening on the national level here. This is an article I'm looking at from crimepreventionresearch.org. And this article is dated August 23, 2025. D.C. marks 9 days without a homicide after Trump takeover. What are the odds of that? 0.98% based on 2024 data, 1.5% based on 2025's first 7 months. The lives being saved are almost all black. And I think one of the reasons why the last statement in the headline is because the people who are running around with their hair on fire saying that Donald Trump is targeting black and brown people, they're just being hyperbolic. And the only target he has is saving lives. And they all happen to be the lives, almost all black. So let me get into this article. By the afternoon of Friday, August 22, news reports showed that Washington, D.C. had gone nearly 10 days without a homicide. That was a record. Assuming that there were no homicides for the rest of yesterday, and we can find no record of that, there would have been 10 days without a homicide in D.C. But since we are not certain, we will report the estimated probabilities for D.C. going for both 9 and 10 days without a homicide. We couldn't even find any evidence of homicide in D.C. as of midnight Eastern Time on Saturday, August 23rd, the 11th day. How likely is it that 9 straight homicide-free days happened by chance? Using the homicide rate for the first 7 months of 2025, the probability comes out to just 1.5%, well below the 5% threshold typically used to mark a result as statistically significant. Data for 2024. Washington, D.C. recorded 187 homicides in 2024, a daily rate of 0.5137. Using a Poisson distribution, I think that's how that's pronounced, the probability of no homicides in a given day is 0.598, so that there's about 59.8% chance of a single day passing with 0 homicides. Assuming for simplicity each day is independent of all others, the probability of 9 no homicide days is 0.98%. If this can go for 10 days, the probability is 0.58%. If you go for 11 days, let's see, that was be looking at August 23rd, it's the 11th day, the probability is 0.35%. If it can go for 12 days through Sunday, August 24th, it is at 0.209%. And if it can go for 14 days, it is at 0.075%. To put it differently, as of the 11th day, that is the equivalent of 1 out of 286 chance of D.C. going for that long without a homicide occurring. Data for the 7 months of 2025. Washington, D.C. recorded 99 homicides for the first 7 months of 2024, a daily rate of 0.467. Using the Poison distribution, the probability of no homicides in a given day is 0.627. So there's 62.7% chance of a single day passing with 0 homicides. Assuming that each day is independent of all others, the probability of 9 no homicide days is 1.5%. If this goes for 10 days, the probability is 0.94. For 11, it's 0.59%. 12, it is 0.369. And for 14 days, it's 0.145%. To put it differently, as of the 11th day, this is the equivalent of 1 out of 169.5 chance of DC going for that long without a homicide occurring. And this is the real thing that stands out. A National Institute for Criminal Justice Reform analysis for DC homicides between 2019 and 2021 found that 96% of victims were black. For non-fatal shootings, 97% of non-fatal shootings suspects were black. Now, why would I bring this national article up on a show where we're talking about the violence in Burlington? It's very simple. DC had a change in leadership. They went from a very violent city to a mostly peaceful city in just a matter of days because of a change of leadership. This is what I'm trying to point out. It's not the laws so much as the leadership. Yes, there is a much larger law enforcement presence in D.C. now because of the change of leadership. And that can also happen in Burlington. Just, ladies and gentlemen, humor me here for a minute. Just imagine if we were to get a Republican mayor of Burlington who stands with law enforcement, who stands in support of all law enforcement officers, whether they be Vermont State Police, Burlington City Police, the National Guard, the Border Patrol, CPB, whatever. Get a CEO of the city of Burlington who understands that the way to get Burlington back on the map for being a peaceful city, a safe city, is to have a law enforcement presence and actually enforce the law and have people, who break the law, who violate the law, be held accountable for whatever it is that they do, whether it be a misdemeanor or a felony. The rampant drug use in the city of Burlington has to be curbed. The rampant crime, whether it be assaults, property crimes, whatever, it doesn't matter, need to be brought under control if people are going to return to the city of Burlington. It's just that simple. People have friends all over. Vermonters have friends all over the state, and it doesn't take very long for people to find out what cities are safe, what towns are safe, and which ones are not, and why. So it's really not about as much about changing the laws as it is about changing the leadership. There are modifications that need to be done. And ladies and gentlemen, with a little bit of effort, and like I said, and I keep saying, informing yourselves, you, the listening public, about who your elected officials are, what they voted for, what they stand for, what bills they sponsor. Are those bills going to improve public safety? Are those bills going to reduce your tax burden? This is the time. This is why I strike while the iron is hot. People, this has struck a chord with a lot of people in this state. And now is the time, if you want to get involved, now's the time to get involved. And I say that because we are not far, as crazy as it sounds, we are not far from the next election. And learning what's going on now is going to help you come time for the next election. I know I read a lot of comments where people are dissatisfied with this person or that person in their performance. Now's the time to find out, is there somebody on the horizon who can replace that person whose performance you are not happy with? And in the case of Burlington, whether it be the mayor or the city council, then this is the time to start looking. This is the time to start looking. Okay? If you want to make change, it can't be just doing a little bit of research a couple of weeks prior to to an election. And I say that because there are too many elected officials who think that you're not capable of a memory. You can't remember, you won't remember how outraged you were today about what happened in Burlington with the brutal beatdown and killing of a man by 3 teens, that you won't remember that come election day. And you won't remember who's responsible because of their lack of leadership. So this is why I say what I say. This is one of the reasons why I get behind this microphone and talk to people. I don't want to preach to you. I'm trying to help inform you about how you can be more effective at providing your own safety, because you've provided your vote for somebody who will stand up for your safety. Somebody who understands that that law enforcement officer who got recently hired was because of the newly elected person that you pulled that lever for, that you filled in that spot on your ballot and put it in the ballot box. That's how you make the difference. And that's how from day to day you go and find out on social media or whatever newscast you find that's helpful to you, so that you can see things that will make you breathe a sigh of relief, that might make you smile instead of making you scratch your head in disbelief. This is why I wanted to cover the situation in Washington, D.C., because there was a post on X that I read, and maybe if I can find it for the next segment, I'll read it. But it basically, to paraphrase, one of the reasons why the political left is so outraged about the federalization of Washington, D.C. is because the political left is afraid that it will be demonstrated that it's very easy to bring a city back into law and order. And when people see how easy it has been, they will be more outraged at the people screaming against the federalization because of the need for law and order in a city. That's why it's being done, for the need of safety in a city. And I think we need that in Burlington, don't you, ladies and gentlemen? I think there are a lot of people, even people outside the city of Burlington, who would breathe a sigh of relief knowing that Burlington is safer. Knowing maybe they have a friend or a relative who's been a long-time resident in Burlington that you don't need to worry about. Knowing that you don't need to worry about a name change on a street, Church Street. Why would they want to change the name of Church Street? You had church leaders who were asking for additional security because their own parishioners were safe. And they were attacked for asking for more security. That's just not right. So I'll get off my soapbox here if I burn through another segment, but this is a big deal. Public safety is not going to change, I believe, ladies and gentlemen, until we change some leadership. So just keep that in mind. You're listening to Right Side Up. Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Mike Taglavia. You're listening to Right Side Up. I just want to, before we get back into our talk about some of the leadership and lack of leadership, and a bill I want to highlight that needs to be highlighted so that some people can be, you in the listening audience can be informed about what's going on. I just want to remind everybody, if you'd like to drop us a line, rightsideUpradio@gmail.com. If you, for some reason, can't find us or cannot listen to us because you're out of the listening area, you've driven through it, and you want to continue, WNTK.com, click on the podcast button, scroll down the right side up, and you'll be able to listen to any number of our shows, and hopefully you enjoy them enough to share them with friends to increase our network. Speaking of networks, you can find us obviously on WNTK Radio at WNTK.com. You can find us on 802 Scoop Facebook, 802 Scoop YouTube. You can find us on GraniteGrock.com. You can find us on Podbean. And I'm still working on getting one more venue, but we are growing, and I'm happy to have you listening. There's a bill I want to highlight, and it has to do with Burlington, and it has to do with an issue of crime in Burlington. But this bill is really not going to help solve any problems of crime in Burlington. It will just serve to take away more of your rights. So you're probably asking, what bill is that? We have Bill S-131 that made its way through the Senate this past session. And 131, I will read it to you as introduced because I want to just highlight what I'll give you the subject and then statement of purpose. Subject: municipal and county government, municipal charters, City of Burlington amendments, firearms. Okay. So this bill is going to be targeting your Second Amendment rights, ladies and gentlemen. Burlington has a safety problem, a public safety problem, a violence problem, a drug addiction problem, a petty crime problem, and Burlington wants to take away your Second Amendment rights. That's what's going on here. Statement of purpose of bill as introduced. This bill proposes to approve an amendment to the charter of the City of Burlington to prohibit the prohibit the possession of firearms in any building or any real property or parking area under the ownership or control of an establishment licensed to serve alcohol for on-premises consumption. So this bill came about because of a violent situation in the city of Burlington. I believe that violent situation actually occurred outside of a bar, and it occurred with the use of a firearm that was retrieved from a vehicle after apparently an argument or a fight inside of a bar. So the city of Burlington decides they want a charter change because they're not enforcing the laws. We don't have, again, I'll bring it up, we don't have the leadership to deal with law enforcement properly. So how do we deal with it? We asked the people in the legislature, to change Burlington's charter so they can have more restrictive laws on who? Law-abiding citizens, ladies and gentlemen, because gun laws are only observed by law-abiding citizens. We all know that, but I just had to say that. So I also wanted to point out that this bill was sponsored by Senator Phil Baruth. He is from Chittenden Central District. So this is a senator from the city of Burlington who wants the legislature to change the laws regarding how you and I can defend ourselves because the city of Burlington won't take care of its own dirty laundry. That's basically what it is. So I wanted to point this out, and it is now in a committee in the House of Representatives in Montpelier. So I'm going to give you a minute, and I'm going to find the committee here. Let's see, Government Operations and Military Affairs. So this bill has been sent to the Committee on Government Operations and Military Affairs. The chair of that is Representative Matthew Byrong, There are a total, I believe, what do we got? 11 representatives. So if you were to go to legislature.vermont.gov and click on committees and find the House Committee on Government Operations and Military Affairs, you can see if you have a representative from your area who is on this committee, so that you could either email them or call them, or call the Sergeant at Arms at the Capitol and send a message to your legislator. Actually, because this would affect it, because it's in the state legislature, I encourage people from all over the state to get a hold of members of this committee if you are in strong opposition of this, to let them know how you feel. Do it politely, please, but make sure you let them know that this, because Burlington has a problem that they made, that you're not happy that we, the people, the rest of the law-abiding citizens of Vermont, may suffer because of it. So, from what I'm told, this is going to be a heavy lift for this bill, but you never can tell. So the more opposition that we have to it, I think the better. So I just, with all of the violence going on in Burlington and this bill and some of the solutions we've seen around the country with respect to leadership and just applying the laws on the books, I just wanted to try to tie these all together. And there was one other thing, if I can find it here. Let's see. There's one other thing, and I talked about this in the previous segment, getting involved. There's another article here, and I'll just refer to it real quickly because we're going to be running out of time really quick. This is in Vermont Daily Chronicle, dated August 22, 2025, by Joe Gervais. Why town caucuses in September matter for Vermont Republicans. Just over a year and a half ago, I wrote about the grassroots organization of the Vermont Republican Party. By state statute, every odd-numbered year, the major parties reorganize. We are now entering that cycle with town chairs noticing caucuses for September. Why is the caucus critical? The caucus is on the on-ramp for participating in the Vermont Republican Party. An organized town has delegates to the county committee, and the county committee has delegates to the state committee. Through this structure, Republicans at the town level help recruit candidates and nominate citizens to hold elected office. This begins with local justices of the peace, extends to state representatives and senators, and continues all the way to county officers like sheriff and statewide offices, such as governor, lieutenant governor, and treasurer. Without a town committee, Republicans in that town lose their voice. They have no delegates, no representation in county or state decisions, and may even lack Republican justices of the peace to serve on the town's Board of Civil Authority. This is why I encourage people to inform themselves and to get involved. I got involved years ago, and I do not regret it, ladies and gentlemen. Yes, it does take your time. But if your state matters to you, if your safety matters to you, if your kids and grandkids matter to you, if your property taxes matter to you, if the school structure you have matters to you, then spend a little bit of time and get involved. You would be surprised at how much better you will feel knowing that you have a seat at the table. Not just voting once every November when there's an election every 2 years, but more often. So, I'm going to go a little bit into this a little bit more. The process. The state chair has officially warned the town caucuses for September 16th. Town chairs of organized towns should provide at least 5 days' notice. Full details are posted on the VTGOP website. Let's see, it's vtgop.org/reorg/dot. If a town is not organized, or if a town chair fails to call a caucus by September 16th, any 3 registered Republicans from that town may call a caucus themselves, using the same notice requirements. County chairs and state leaders are available to assist with questions, and training sessions for organizers will be offered on August 26th and September 3rd. The caucus itself, is simple. Number 1, Republicans in attendance elect the town committee members. Number 2, the caucus adjourns. Number 3, the town committee immediately convenes its first meeting to elect officers and county delegates. When run efficiently, both meetings together take less than 30 minutes. Why strong town committees matter. Town committees exist to get Republicans elected to public office, whether that's local school boards and select boards or state and county offices. Strong committees make all the difference in a campaign. They help candidates with fundraising, voter outreach, door knocking, distributing palm cards, hosting events, getting out the vote. Without a town committee, all of this falls solely on the candidate and their campaign team. With one, Republican multiply their efforts, grow our presence, and build lasting strength for future elections. Now's the time to organize. Every Republican in Vermont should know your town caucus is where your voice begins. And it's very true, ladies and gentlemen. I read comments to articles all the time. There are a number of you who are upset. You're dissatisfied. I completely understand. But there is a way for you to get involved. There is a way for you to be a little bit less satisfied by being part of the process. And if you are part of the process, you will, number one, you'll meet a lot more people. I met an incredible number of people in a very short period of time. And it's very empowering. It really, truly is very empowering. You can make a difference. You are not just one person. You are one of many. You just don't realize it yet. You just seriously don't realize it yet. So if there is something that upsets you about what is going on in the state, taxes, schools, whatever, public safety, maybe it's zoning, who knows? Maybe it's your hunting rights. Maybe it's your Second Amendment rights. It could be anything. But there are a number of people who feel like you do, who are out there. You just don't know it yet. So find a way to get involved. Find a way find out if your town is actually organized. If they're not, try to find a few friends so that you can organize it. And it will really honestly make you feel better. It will make a difference. I really honestly believe it will make a difference. So I hope this kind of all ties together. And I hope you enjoyed this show. I was kind of hesitant because I walked into the studio, really upset about the violence situation in Burlington and knowing that it doesn't need to be that way. So anyway, we've come to the end of another show, ladies and gentlemen. And I'm very thankful for the listeners. Just remember, stay safe, stay informed, listen to Right Side Up.